something. And that's just coincidence. I'm just, no, look, but that's the difference between a good programmer playing bad guy and sloppiness. And why? Because the images were grabbed without them knowing it and getting it. And there are other things I can't really disclose, but other states, and I've got a laundry list of them because I have to keep an extra drive with each state that I help. This happens everywhere. I'm just telling you that. These kind of things to where there's a Bode County person who turns over a device and an image is taken. And then you examine it and you find exactly that. And I'm telling you, when I first started, the attorneys asked me to review these reports. And the Mesa 3 just blew me away. And on that point, I've worked in security operations centers for the Department of Defense, for civil agencies. As a matter of fact, we've both been at NASA. And the thing is if you see stuff like that, you automatically jump into full mode. I'm grabbing network traffic and images, those PCAP files, I'm grabbing the system images, because we've got to investigate. Because the normal functions don't happen like that. Looking at that, I know how the TDPs, the technical data packages, say. The only time those things are supposed to happen to where you could have the second database is after the polls have closed and then you reopen them, or you switch elections, right? Because you can run multiple elections. Those are the only way. There was no other evidence to indicate that that happened, yet those databases existed.
What about a daylight savings time election?
We're talking Dallas County now. Yeah. Look, I despise daylight savings time, but when the poll book issue in Dallas County happened, I thank God for that. Because either somebody neglected the programming or China didn't realize the time difference, right? And because, and it is sort of, I'm presenting lighthearted, but you do not know how my email and my phone lit up. Because the poll workers that talk to me, we use iPads in Alabama. Different from what you guys have. But the thing is they were all about, well, Clay, we're told to put those in the boxes and the screens are blank, but we never remember powering them off. And then when I, in Wake County, asked, well, they told me they have to update. What updates in a box when your storage is not using it? I mean, I'm going to ask the computer programs here.
They didn't come out properly. You have to update that.
So everything that I saw, as far as that, just why there's not a full criminal investigation, I do not know. And I've tried to follow up on it. I initially helped, but there's so much going on in so many states, it's hard to track. But that should not. There's no logical reason. And I looked at it from the different poll books and everything. You don't think that way from a programming perspective. There's no logic, and the poll workers lost control. They are responsible, not the voting system, and they could not reopen them, and they closed early. They denied, if somebody came in last minute, they were denied the right to vote because they couldn't check in. These are questions that should be happening, and I'm telling you as a programmer, and everybody says at this table, the stuff that went on with those, no way it should happen.
There's a lot of sloppy programs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make that mistake, first of all. But all these things that have been caught on, don't expect to catch them next time. So if you don't get rid of the machines, then whatever errors they made there, unless they're idiots, they will fix them. With in the wrong places, all kinds of things. In fact, when I first started this a million years ago, and got rid of the machines in Florida and got rid of some other places, they still had the touch screens they were trying to push on everybody. And then people started yelling because they pushed one button and it would jump someplace else. You don't have to do that. That's, when I saw that doing that's sloppy programming. I don't care what you push. I'll vote any way I want to. What you push doesn't make any difference at all. Not even a little bit. I control the machine. What I give you as an interface to play with is just a video game for you to play with, okay? It's nothing that really matters. So I don't need to make it jump over here to vote for Fred. If you press Mary and I want Fred, I'll vote Fred. Because I control the machine, you don't. You're just playing the video game. So that's the key, is this is a video game, this is a show, and if we have machines in there, we will never be able to control it because the programmers will get better and better. They got some sloppy programmers. I would have made that mistake anyway. Bad data, change it. It takes a few seconds. It doesn't take long at all, you know? Two side by side, maybe that's where you're tracking. But once your changes go, if you have a little plug-in thing, I'll show you mine. And this was written back in 2020. And you coming? Okay, right there. This is your number plus one. If you notice, I don't store it anywhere separate. I actually go to the database and rewrite it every time. So you can never catch me not doing it properly. This is the proper way to cheat. Remember this.
This was the wrong way.
That's the wrong way. This is the right way. So machine companies that are watching this, copy this code down. This will teach you how to do it. You should know that. It's not that hard.
To make one comment on Clay saying that there ought to be a criminal investigation. After we issued Mesa Report 3, a citizen in Mesa County, Colorado did take it to the district attorney and ask him to investigate. He did an investigation, made a report, said a lot of things in his report that weren't true, and we issued a rebuttal for that. But the two big points in Mesa Report number 3 is that unauthorized databases were created and election records were deleted. The district attorney did not look at the databases, and he said, those are not election records under Colorado law, so I don't have to look at them. So he didn't investigate the two main points of the report. But if you do look at his investigation, be sure you look for our rebuttal.
Well, here's the point that I'm drawing from all of this. There's not one single vulnerability that can be fixed. And even when you find the one, they'll come up with another. Or they'll fix it in a way that it doesn't solve the problem. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm not sure you all can answer. Any of the three of you answer this. Name the honest computer experts who believe that our elections are safe.
Don't know any if they actually know anything about computers.
I just wondered if I could stump them, and I did. I found out the question of the stump them. All right, so
A big question here is everybody says, who would do this? Who's cheating, right? Deep state, Chinese, Russians. You know, we know Republicans will cheat, right? We know Democrats will cheat. We know everybody will cheat, okay? So whoever can get their little fingers in there could make it happen. But the point is not, are we going to catch them? Because you're not going to catch them, okay? The point is, what are you going to do about it? And do you believe in the election? And if you don't, then we don't have a democracy. And until we get a system that we can believe in, and that's got to be our goal. We can't go back and fix 2020. It's gone. You know, if there was a red wave that got washed out by a bunch of mediocre machines, there's nothing you can do about it, okay? Same way with Democratic votes. There was one in 2012. Looked like it was going to be a big blue wave. Turned into a little puddle. Why is that? Everything's 50-50. Everything stays very mediocre, and we're at each other's throats all the time. But what we have to do is get a system that everybody believes in, and everybody can actually validate themselves. And I have a proposal. Anyone hear it? No? Anyway.
let's get to that in just a second. And,
Okay.
and I think we do need to get to the proposed solutions because of time. But I want to draw this point out, and I'll take your question in just a second. I want to draw this point out, is that if you make it to to where it is impossible to question an election, you guarantee there will be fraud because of human nature. And they're trying, there's this massive attempt to make anyone who questions the election as the bad person who is undermining confidence in the elections. Have you noticed that? Rather than address it, you are the wrong ones because you're undermining. Because we all agree, I think universally we agree, it is necessary to have confidence in our elections in order to have a democratic republic. It's absolutely essential. You have to have confidence. But questioning invalid results or questioning vulnerabilities or any questions of the elections, it shouldn't be undermining confidence. It should be enhancing it because it forces us to get to solutions. And that's the point I want to draw. Don't be told you're evil by the media because you want to have answers to your legitimate questions. You're not undermining confidence. You're actually trying to restore confidence. And you need to be applauded for that. Okay, let's talk solutions.
My proposal. Now, this is an old proposal from back in 2020 when I first wrote it, and I told these people, don't use machines. Here's how you have to fix this, right? So you do hand-counted paper ballots at the precinct level before they're moved. Don't let them move, because the minute someone moves them, you have to wonder. Now you have to trust somebody. So we need a system where you don't have to trust anybody. Count at the precinct level. You count them in small groups. It's done in countries all over the world, just not here. Okay? And on videotape, where everyone can watch them sit there and count the votes, so they can't tweak it. And the video's available to anybody who wants to sit there and be bored watching them count. If we do that, then if you lose, you may watch that video 20 times. But if you lose, you'll know you lost. And you're okay with that. We're Americans. We accept loss. But we don't like to be screwed. We don't like that. So if we do it that way, we can solve this problem. It'll be a lot cheaper. It'll be a lot easier. And the system's done. Too easy.
And that means get the machines out of it. That's the bottom line. Okay, you had a question.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you. I'll repeat it. In Senator Hall's proposal, we're going to keep the machines.
Hey, if I could, first off, I'm going to tell you, I met Senator Hall in his office for the first time. This is my first time in Austin. I've been to Houston several times in Dallas. This is my first time. And I'm telling you exactly what I told him. I wish and I pray we had somebody in Montgomery, Alabama, my state capital, that is like him. Now, and I'm telling you, you people are blessed to have him. But he is one man in this building, right? And so that point needs to be said. Now, before, there are a bunch of us and we're talking around and agreeing solutions, and I'm telling you, it's not so much a technical solution, it's a political solution, right? And you've got to be willing to fight. But here's what I'm going to tell you that I try to stress it in Alabama. Because in Alabama, all it takes is a county resolution to say, we're not using the machines, right? We're still struggling to get that done, and there are a lot of grassroots doing that. Because you can put more pressure on your probate judge, on your county election commissioner, and the county sheriff than you can on this bill. Not saying change your fight. You Texans are fighting it good. I'm very honored to be here because we tried this in my state and it didn't work. We sort of failed. But my point is you start it there, and then the state's going to freak out, try to sue them, do something, and it's going to go to your Supreme Court. And if you have the same way we have in Alabama, the counties are going to win. I just got to we're trying to push the counties to do that. So it's a war. It's a multi-front war.
Yeah, go ahead.
Louder.
Can't hear.
I'll repeat it. She's the biggest fan of Senator Hall. The question is,
Based on testimony, are we fighting a failing fight if we leave machines in any part of the election process? That's all I'm asking.
The question is, are we fighting a failing fight if we leave machines at any part, like the counting? And I have a suggestion Russ brought to me that I'll share, but the question is, if we leave machines counting, are we failing?
Yes and no. There are a lot of people married to the machines, as you will know, and what you could do if you just had to have them is you could run them through a machine at the precinct level prior to the hand count. Now you have your instantaneous, we know who won. Unofficial who won. And then after the hand count, you have the official count. I guarantee you if someone checks the machines, they will be accurate. Especially if you say if they're not accurate, we're going to fire you.
We need to do it the other way around, because the machine can flip the picture, and the machine can flip the count. So it's a manual term, and then do a machine.
You could do it that way too. And they're right, the machines can't flip things.
Yeah,
They can
either
produce
order,
things, they
but
can-
the point is that the official results are the hand count.
Right.
And a resolution from the county commissioner's court can say that. They can say, we resolve only to certify hand counts as the official vote.
And here's the thing, and this is unrelated to the fight, and I agree whether it's a losing battle, but the senator, it's a fake grenade, but I jokingly think, does he have the strength to pull it and use it in this house, right? I think he has the courage. And what I'm going to tell you, as a United States Marine, and our history goes back, you can go back to World War I or anything. We were always outgunned, overmanned, and most military commanders would think it's not doable. But you know what? When you've got an American fighting spirit, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It matters how it comes out in the end. So do not give up the fight.
And Senator Hall is a great man, and I agree 100%. But the question that was raised every time I've gone here, where you're going to talk about a precinct with 1,000, that's your ideal. And then you look at a big city, and you say, well, there's going to be too many precincts, and we don't have enough poll workers. And one of the things that Russ Ramsden suggested to me is, there's a political solution for that. Whether you pay them or you bring in high school students and give them an all-day excused absence in civic duty to come in and count ballots. Where there is a will, there is a way. And if it takes going to 1,000 and hand counting them, we need to find the people that can hand count 1,000. And you get an election result. How long did it take in Arizona on the Kerry Lake election? But how long would it take if you count in groups of 1,000?
Not really long. That's how it's done.
That's how it's done. In 2 or 3 hours, and you have an answer, and you have a hand counted answer, and if you have to have machines, then you have a machine quick response, but then you have a hand counted answer, and it's the hand count that counts.
Yes.
Great point. Okay, we've got a bunch of hands up.
On November 18th, our county was going to certify an election. I objected, and I gave them polling I did with 7 jury pools that were drastically different from the outcome of a $303 million courthouse bond. Anyway, I'm looking at the code of Texas, 66.057, and the public record is in envelope 3. I'm a precinct chair of precinct 3. I want to know, can I go count the paper ballots of my precinct in this envelope number 3 according to Texas code?
I don't know if any of you have the Texas election code. This isn't the code on the computer. This is the Texas election code if you're prepared to answer.
And this is the way I do it, and they insulted me in Arizona, because this is how detailed, when we attack this stuff, and you've got to understand, well, he's now an attorney, don't hold that against him, but we're all men of science up here, and there's certain things that you do. When you cover down in what's called scientific method, I'm going to check everything. And so the way I do, I first go to the EAC, what your state told the federal government, what your laws are and how you vote. Then I go to the appropriate state's law. And I can tell you, I briefly looked at Texas law, but not in the detail. I can't answer your question. But that's and I do it. I did it in Arizona. It's Title 16 of their statute. It's everything that deals with elections. And it was a lot, and they made it cumbersome because I had to give my wife instructions to download the Word documents. And so what I'm telling you is, if I do it for every state that asks for my help, then you got to get it. And you're going to find out, like I did in my own state of Alabama, your laws aren't written perfectly. Your capital's got some work to do. I guarantee you that you're going to find that. And then you need to ask the people who wrote the law to clarify it and to make them answer your question.
There's a question.
Yes, sir. For the Mr. Democrat, when you were talking about, sorry, I meant that cheerfully. When you were talking about having the people, having the votes counted at the poll, my question to you is, since in Texas we have early voting, now it's 2 weeks, I personally believe that's ridiculous and we need to cut that down because it's an unconstitutional cost to us. But how would you do that? Especially, I'm in Lavaca County, I'm a rural county. You folks in these urban areas, y'all complain about not getting election workers, well, live in a rural area and try to get election workers. So that would be my challenge to you. How would we address those two issues? Thank you.
Well, let's see. So, what do you do with early voting? You take your early voting and you separate them into the precinct and you count them at the precinct on election day.
Okay.
Put the microphone a little bit.
Oh,
So those would be counted on election night?
just count on election night.
Okay.
You divide them into groups, you'll have so many people. If you stop spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on machines, you can hire some workers. I don't know if your rural county has any unemployment going on right now, but I'm pretty sure that for a decent price, you could get yourself some people there and be a lot cheaper than you have paid for your election equipment, a lot cheaper. You're probably paying more for maintenance than it would cost just to get those workers.
$16,500 a year.
Is that it?
Right here.
The Constitution assigns to the states legislatures the power to determine the time, place, and manner of elections. A county is a subdivision of a state. Therefore, in my opinion, I'm not an attorney, I do not play one on TV, county commissioners have the right to determine the time, place, and manner of elections. And this has been done in Nye County, Nevada, most recently in Cleburne County, Arkansas, that the equivalent of our Commissioner's Court in Texas, which is the J.P. Forum Court in Arkansas, voted to stop using machines and to use, to go to hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots. So the process in Arkansas, I had a small part in that. I've spoken a number of times to groups in Arkansas. The process that they went through was basically one of education, to first educate the equivalent of our commissioners, their JPs, that they actually had the authority to determine the time, place, and manner of elections, and then the reasons why they should exercise that authority in deciding that the manner of elections in Cleburne County, Arkansas would be hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots. So my opinion, not a legal opinion, is that county commissioners have that same authority in Texas that they do in Nevada and Arkansas. Well,
But you can expect some pushback, a lot of pushback. The Secretary of State is given some authority over elections. It's kind of iffy as to how much it is. You know, in Florida it got out of hand, in Arizona it got out of hand, in Nevada it got out of hand, and they thought they could just run it. So there will probably be a court battle, but court battles are fun. That's how lawyers eat. So it's okay. So fight the fight and make it happen, you know?
And here, I want to finish the comment on this because it's very important. Because I talked to our former Secretary of State, right, at a crazy Republican luncheon, because I had specific questions in my grassroots, we posed things, because we learned of the lies that they were told and what he said. And not accusing your Secretary of State of lying, but I'm telling you, face to face, our Secretary of State lied to me, and not saying, but they do have an association, you know that. They have a secretary, all the Secretary of States have a group. So I'm just telling you, what they say is not always truthful. You know, and so I'm just telling you.
Okay, we have a question here.
My question was, when I was sitting here, is election fraud, excuse me, is election fraud something that a grand jury panel would be able to take up at any time?
If it's on the computer,
Repeat the question.
The question is, would a grand jury panel be able to take up the issue of election fraud in a given county?
if it's on, computers are complex. And the laws are written to hide what we do, okay? So that a grand jury could actually get to the bottom of a election fraud through voting machines would be an astronomical leap. I'm just saying, not likely to happen. It's very complex. It's kind of like the complex financial crimes. No one ever goes to jail because they're too messy that no one can understand them by the time they're done looking at them. And it just goes away. The key is not necessarily to look backwards, you know? The key is to get it in a forward-thinking way. If you can fix the problem now, and you don't have to fix it one way or the other. You don't have to say, Trump got screwed, therefore we need to get rid of the machine. And you don't have to say, Democrats are terrible, so we need to get rid of the machine. All you need to say is, I don't trust the machines. And in order to have a democracy that is viable, we have to have trust in a system. We have to have something that everybody, the winner, the loser, both parties, can look at and go, hey,
This is restoring confidence. That's the whole point. We take their language and flip it on them. They're losing confidence, and they're losing it, and it's increasing their losses. So we have to restore confidence, and the only way to restore confidence is to make it transparent, to make it... Go ahead.
Right. And I hear your point. I'm telling you, I've seen plenty of evidence. And in Arizona, I just found evidence that they lied. They didn't follow their procedures. It was blatantly obvious. And Mark is awesome, but you can bring it down and you can do it. And part of the trouble, I think he did an outstanding job because he took it to a level to where you could understand it and it was simple. I've been told even when I dumb things down, it's still too nerdy. And sometimes you get a judge that can understand it and sometimes you don't. And then sometimes they just ignore the truth. And that's it. There is plenty of hard physical evidence. And it is a complicated thing. And again, I'm not an attorney, but to prove it with computers, it's tremendously hard.
But it's done in secret. I mean, it's a closed session. You know, it's done in secret. Only the people are allowed in it. Just a few people are allowed in it. I think it's 12 juries. And I think the prosecutor, I think whoever can hear is basically, and it's closed, not televised. And they just sit there and they just listen to the evidence that's being presented. You know, I think the grand jury, in my opinion, I think it would be a good start. I don't know where to go, but I think it would be a good start.
but you better have a pretty bright grand jury in Texas.
Yeah, if you have hard
complicated.
evidence, take it to your DA.
Right. You're going to have to go through the code, find it in the code, make it all together, and then if you get a grand jury indictment, you're going to have to explain this to a group of jurors that are sitting there trying not to fall asleep as you go into binary.
But what you've seen,
Up front.
you can demand, you want elections accurate, transparent, and accountable. Those are the three key words. And if we push forward to get those, that's how we win. Now, you've asked a question, you've had your hand up quite a bit. And in the
I'm
back.
an election judge in Dallas County. And so at the end of the night, so when someone comes in, they sign in on the paper, it's a triplicate form. They vote, it's a human being, they sign in, they fill out the paperwork, what precedes everything, they vote, and it goes into the tabulator, into the box. At the end of the night, we pull it out, and all of the ballots are in there. Each ballot shows who they voted for. It's all written on the ballot. And so then, the sign-in sheet has to reconcile with how many ballots are in the box. And the printout from the DS200 has to reconcile with the sign-in sheets. That's a human being coming in. If it's not reconciling, we've got a problem. We need to call central count, all these things. And so I was thinking that if we roll an audit into election night all in one, so instead of one box with the ballots, we need 3 boxes. We need a blue box to go to central count, Dallas County. We need a red box to go to the RNC, and we need another box to go to the DNC. It's all chain of custody, has to be followed, no cheating. And then, so if someone has a problem or says, this isn't right, or I got this total, or I got that total, you can just ask each other. The DNC can ask the RNC, well, what'd you get in precinct 4031? Well, I got this. Well, what'd you get? Well, everybody's got the same boxes with the same information.
I got the answer to that one.
Right, but it's written on but then the voter gets to keep a copy too, the voter.
Right, but the voter it doesn't make any difference if you get a receipt for bologna.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how much bologna was bought. You just know what your bologna is. And so that makes no difference. That's why when you go to the bank and you use a Diebold machine and you get your money back, it's going to be accurate. Because you're going to do something that you can't do in an election, you're going to count your money.
Right, but if the DNC says this was a fake election, it was horrible, you've got all the boxes, you audited. You ought to do your own audit.
By the time you're to that level, you are in trouble. Okay. Now you have to trust people. That's why it's better to have them counted at the precinct by hand with the videotape that anybody can watch 500 times.
Right.
Okay, I got 543 votes and you got 547 votes.
Right.
If it matters, I can look at it.
Right.
The Republicans on his hands with the Democrats.
Right.
Okay, we're going to
Because
take
he's
3
correct.
more questions, and we have to move on to the next.
I want to address your poll book question, and about, that is one thing y'all do. You do make them sign in, you keep a paper copy. Why are y'all duplicating work? From a process procedure standpoint, that's waste.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Clyde in this group is working on is a solution that Senator Ball put up to go back to paper signage sheets.
Right.
I missed the time when I gave my Alabama driver's license and they verified me, they slid it over and I signed my name, right? If you're already creating paper, do it that way. You've got to have your registration database. So we'll concede that, right? But you go back to, hey, you print up for your precinct, you have your rosters, and you do it that way. And if you've got a big stack, I'm sure you've got a lot of people working them, because I saw plenty of site books. You just divide those spreadsheets out, do it by alphabetical order or whatever you do, and do it that way. It's the little step. But
If I may
But he's-
interject something, you answered the question of hers earlier. I'm also a Dallas County judge. Nobody has ever verified the barcode that the DS200 reads for what's on when we sign. Nobody. And for what you showed up there, I can change it like you can change it like that.
No question. Okay, this gentleman here.
My statement is that I read the Supreme Court made a statement that they do not accept anything that comes out of the computer as viable, as not acceptable in the rule of the day. Because the computer cannot be you can't verify it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes.
So I think the biggest thing we forget, we are a constitutional republic. Our constitution says we the people. We are not a democracy.
Yes.
We need to quit acting like we're a democracy. We need to quit calling ourselves a democracy. We are a constitutional republic, and that is what we are fighting to keep.
And this is 1,000% agree. And no offense, but you do hear Democrats on Main Street Media, and they talk about that, and they talk about democracy. But the voting process is a democratic process, and you have to concede that. Now, the way we control our voting process is how? We have an electoral college, and we do our votes that way. That's what the Republic part is. And so, but let's not, and I hear you, but let's not get into that fight. Let's drop the Democrat-Republican fight, the democracy, the Republic fight, but.
If we don't fight for a constitutional republic, we're gonna have a federal.
Yes, ma'am, but remember, we are, so when we say democracy in the election things, we're talking about the actual Democrat, yes, the majority wins. Voting is a democratic process.
To get the representatives who come to this house to represent us, and we are here to petition our representatives to clean up the election process. So, yeah, last question.
If I may respectfully disagree, we are not supposed to have confidence in our elections, and we are not supposed to have confidence in our government. The framers understood that the nature is frequently corrupt. We should never have confidence. We should be perpetually suspicious of anyone who wants power.
Well, a fine semantic point, but I'm going to stop.
The problem was we had too much confidence in that.
We need to restore confidence because we can question, and that's the point, and you missed that point. We need to have the ability to question, and that's the only way we will ever have confidence. I'm not asking you to have permanent confidence. I'm asking you to have the ability to question so that you can say, I know my questions were asked. I know they were answered. And that's what we're here to get. Well, we have a new panel that we need to bring up now. And the new panel is